Myself and the rest of the board, we'd be about 20% of the company. My interests are very aligned with all our shareholders.
Hi, I'm Veronika van Wollen, and joining us today is Brad Langille, President and CEO of GoGold Resources, as well as Steve Lowe, Head of Corporate Development. Brad and Steve, so good to see you guys. How are you doing?
Doing great, Veronika. Good afternoon.
Happy to be here.
Nice to see you as well.
Yeah, we're excited to get chatting today about GoGold Resources. For anyone that doesn't know about GoGold, listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol GGD, as well as in the OTC. And I want us today to talk to investors about the opportunity for GoGold. There's a lot of exciting things when I look at your story. You have a lot of cash in the treasury, close to $52 million. You have $20 million of exploration planned for this year, as well as $2 million of cash flow each month from one of your producing assets. And if that's not enough, if I'm correct, you've mentioned that this might be your most exciting project you've worked on in 20 years. So let's unpack all of this for investors. Before we do that, Brad, maybe you can tell investors what GoGold is and what the story is here.
Well, GoGold's primarily a silver company, albeit the name GoGold. It's GoGold and silver. But we're about 60% of our revenue and 60% of the ounces we're finding by value are silver, and the rest in gold. And we have a little bit of copper produced as well at our producing mine. But GoGold is Mexico focused. The team in my whole career has been spent in Mexico. The team down here in Mexico in 4 companies that I've headed up over the last 27 years. We've built 3 mines in Mexico, and we've majorly refurbished a 4th. Now, GoGold has been the company that we've had now here for the last 10 years. We have an operating mine, and we have a very, very exciting exploration development asset in Mexico, where we're drilling now with 8 drill rigs and 100,000 meters planned in the next 12 months.
Yeah, and that's a lot to look forward to for investors here. I'm curious, you have a track record of success. Clearly, your team has the pedigree. What makes you feel like this is the most exciting project you've worked on in the last 20 years?
Well, you go back to our first company, which was Gammon Gold. And we came down here and we found a project called Ocampo, where we drilled off over 5 million gold equivalent ounces. And that project, we were 2,500 drill holes, and we built 2 large mines. And we had some other great projects since then. But really, when I look at it, Los Ricos, with the caveat that we're at hole about 350 right now. But the whole team, with all of our experience with building those mines and looking back at Ocampo and how that turned out, we just think this project has the volume of mineralized material, has the first resource that we published last July on the first target, where we had 63 million ounces of silver equivalent plus another 20 million, and that's in M&I, and another 20 million ounces of silver equivalent in inferred. And looks like most of that would be in an open pit. So we look at that. That's the first target. And then we move up to Los Ricos North. We talk about Los Ricos, but it's Los Ricos South, Los Ricos North. Los Ricos North, we always viewed as the biggest part of the mineralized system. But we entered into this project in March of 2019 with 29 concessions. And in Los Ricos South, we had pretty much everything we needed. So we got right at it, and we drilled 35,000 meters of drilling. And we defined that resource of 83 million ounces. And now we're doing a PEA there, and we're going to have some economics. Hopefully next week we'll have a press release on that study. But what we really wanted to do is get up to Los Ricos North. Mm-hmm. And we were working on consolidation there, and we were successful in March. We consolidated an additional 5 real critical claims up there in a couple deals. And once we had that, we launched a 100,000 meter drill program, $20 million US. We've done a part of that right now, but we're continuing in the next 12 months to do another, to add on to that, and we'll complete 100,000 meters in the next 12 months.
Right. So if I hear you correctly, last year, the big milestones obviously was raising the capital, plans to expand. I know you've worked towards a PEA as well as an updated resource estimate. Talk to us a little bit about the main highlights of 2020, just to kind of re-emphasize that for investors. And then we can talk about 2021 and the plans for this year a little bit later. But let's summarize what happened last year.
Yeah, the big things that happened last year were that maiden resource on one target in Los Ricos South. And that target, great target, 35,000 meters of drilling. And we moved very quickly. We only acquired this in March of 2019 for 7.2 million US. And from March of 2019 until July of this year, we were able to accomplish getting that 83 million ounces, 63 million in M&I and 20 million inferred in that first target. And bulk mining, and that's really important as well, because this is a bulk mining target. The grades are very, very good for bulk mining, about 200 grams silver equivalent in the open pit. So that was one of the real big objectives in March 2019, was to get to that first resource, Los Ricos South. The other thing is that PEA. So what we're doing there is we're saying, hey, we have this great resource. What would that look like once we apply the economics to it? And so that's going to come out, should come out next week. We're just putting the final touches on it. And we take that and we say, well, people look at that, and that's what we're being valued on right now, is that first resource in Los Ricos South. And that was the goal of 2020. And that PEA, which really we finished almost all the work on that in 2020. Now it's going to come out here on the third week in 2021.
Yeah.
So that was what we wanted to accomplish. But more importantly, I think it's where do we go from here? That was a great success. And, that success was appreciated by our market. We went from entered Los Ricos at 28 cents a share. And, we're trading around $2.50 a share now. Yeah. And we've got such great institutional support as well as retail support. But, what I think is coming next is really potentially even a lot more exciting than that. And it's Los Ricos North. Yeah. The reason, I say this is the kind of the best project I've had and my team has had in 20 years is not just because Los Ricos South, that stands on its own as being a great project, but it's Los Ricos North. That's where we have identified, and some of them on just a reconnaissance basis, but many of them on a very detailed basis. We've identified 100 targets in a very, very large mineralized system. I think this district is probably one of the very best, or one of the very few big districts that is still not developed in Mexico. And 2021, you're going to see that happening, the start of that happening. 8 drill rigs, probably going to 10 here in the next 2 months. That's a big program. It'll be one of the biggest drill programs in Mexico.
Yeah,
that will be really. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that is going to be a really big program. And like you said, one of the biggest in the history in Mexico. So we'll get into that in a little bit. And I also want to talk about why we still feel that there's more room to grow, even though you're hitting new all-time highs on the share price. Before we do, though, why don't we talk a little bit more about your 3 different assets? I think, Steve, you wanted to share the screen just to give investors and shareholders a little bit more of a visual here. And just to recap, you have the producing one that's generating $2 million in cash flow month over month, and then Los Ricos North and South. So I'll kind of let you take it away and expand on that for us. Okay.
I guess first let's talk about a map here for Los Ricos North and South. So really the first effort here was in Los Ricos South, and that's where we drilled off on that one target, 63 million ounces of silver equivalent in M&I, and another 20 million in inferred. And just quickly, that's what that looks like. That's our block model. Here's where we envision the open pit, and down here as well. And this project will be now going to a PEA, and it should be substantial. I'll just in broad strokes, the PEA should be between 250 and 300 million NAV, we would hope. I don't have the final numbers yet. And on top of that, you think about the company, you mentioned 52.5 million US in the bank. And yes, that was the end of the last quarter. But really, right now, we're growing our cash from our operating mine. And at the end of the year, we're plus 55 million US cash in the bank. So, there, plus the value of our operating asset, which would have a NAV of about, at these commodity prices, in excess of 160 million, you're looking there at in about 400 million plus of kind of enterprise value here. So that's kind of supporting what we have right now, or underpinning what we have right now. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about Los Ricos North.
Yeah,
up here. That's the real big system. You want to look at history when you're looking at these things, and we always do a big compilation of every piece of available information we can get. And we look at Los Ricos North, and this is actually a map from 1916 draped over Google Earth, obviously. And at that time, there were a couple big mines up here, El Favor and Casados, but there were 50 small mines up there, 50. And we went out before we even had those 5 critical claims that I mentioned that we needed, which we got last March. That's when we launched the big drill program. We went out a year before that, and we kind of prospected and reconnaissance, and we found all those old small mines. In fact, we got up to 100 targets. So now we've started drilling some of those targets, the bigger ones obviously first, and we're drilling those for a resource that we plan to publish our next resource here, just like in Los Ricos South, how we very quickly to the resource phase. We plan by the end of next summer putting out a resource on this one called El Favor, this one here called Trini, and probably this one called Mololoa. Now, this one we've been putting out lots of drilling on recently, like we've had just some incredible holes. And that one alone, and this is the point I'm trying to make. This one here called El Favor, by itself, has the exploration potential and the size, the volume, to be potentially as bigger than what we just drilled off in the south. This one target.
Okay.
And so
maybe I'll just explain that a little bit. So are we seeing? First of all, are you seeing the similar things as in the south? Because you've obviously spent more time on the south. Are you seeing similar things as the north?
Yes, we are. I kind of believe that a district, and this is really a district scale project, usually has a kind of a tenor of grade. And we're seeing kind of the same tenor of grade. For example, things like this. We had some great holes in Los Ricos South like that, where at surface we start off with 52 meters of 300 gram silver equivalent. And, within that hole, we had 5 meters of 2.5 kilos of silver equivalent. And this over a kilometer. This target is very similar, probably more volume than what we drilled off in Los Ricos South. But this is just one target up here. That's why I think this is so much bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
So is most of the exploration capital going into the north this year? Is that what investors can primarily look forward to for 2021?
It is. If we think about Los Ricos South, look, there's still more drilling to do down there, and we'll probably do some down there. But we're just really chasing after the very obvious stuff right now. And the very obvious stuff is Los Ricos North. This target and so many others up there like Casados and Trini, and they're going to go into that resource, and that'll be should be a very significant resource, and that'll just be in a few months from now. That'll be by the end of next summer.
Right.
So I think it has the potential of being a lot larger than what we just put out in Los Ricos South. I mean, look, we have to do the drilling to say that definitively, obviously, in the 43-101s. But this is, my gut feel and the team's gut feel, and we've been doing this for a long time. We built a lot of mines, and we found millions and millions of ounces over the years.
Right.
But
would the plan be here to take this to production, or perhaps sell it, join them, joint venture? What are we thinking here for kind of the long-term plan?
We kind of have I have a philosophy on that I've developed over the last 27 years of doing this. When you first get into the business, and we had Ocampo, which was a tremendous project, and we said, well, hey, a major's going to come and buy this. But when you do that, and you just say, well, our business objective is for a major to buy us, you've really put the control of your company's future in somebody else's boardroom.
Yeah.
So after we had tons and tons of tire kickers coming to Ocampo over the years, we realized that, and we said, okay, we just got to put our head down, and we got to do all the right studies and all the right permitting. And if nobody buys us, we build the mine. By the time we get there and ready to build the mine, we build the mine. So that's what we're doing here. I mean, we're just doing all the studies, and we're very aggressive. We move things ahead very quickly. So we're getting all the permitting done. We're getting the resources drilled. In the south now, we're doing the PEA. We'll advance that to a pre-feas. But that's in the south. In the north here, though, we're going to drill for a while here, though, because we feel it's so big that we really want to showcase the size of this thing, the size of the system with a lot of drilling. So the focus here for the next, I'd say, 24 months before we move on to economic studies here is to really show the size of this system up here in the north.
So, most important question, right? For any new investors looking at the story, you're trading at all-time highs. Is there still room to go? Like, why should investors look at buying GoGold now?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we're trading at all-time highs, and we're around $700 million market cap for what we have right now defined, Los Ricos South, and our operating mine, which I haven't even talked about, which has over 8 years of reserves left, and is making us free cash flow of over $2 million US a month. That supports our price, but it's Los Ricos North, and again, this, and this will most likely add a lot more ounces than we have in Los Ricos South, or potentially. Again, you have to do the drilling. We're doing that very quickly, with 8, now probably 10 drill rigs by the next 2 or 3 months. There's something else I want to talk about here, though.
Yeah.
That really, really excites me beyond this resource, which is going to add value next summer. When we got going up here, we said we had 2 programs, and really 2 team leaders up here. One team was to go to all those old small mines and to start generating new targets. And they did a great job, and over about a year. And in fact, they found 100 targets. And we've just now started to explore or drill some of those targets. And one of the first ones that they put at the top of their list, and the plan is in 2021, that team, we're going to give them a couple drill rigs of their own, and they're going to go out and take the top kind of 10 targets of their 100 target list. And it won't make our resource in the summer, but it's going to be discovery drilling. And by that, I mean like El Arito, never a drill hole drilled on that target. And now El Arito, we actually got in there and we drilled the first couple holes, and they're going to be out in a few weeks here. And we were quite surprised. So 2 kilometers away from Alpha Vor, which is our big target that we think is as big or bigger than the one in the south. And we hit this, and we saw something different we hadn't seen in the district. We're seeing base metals here. We're seeing some zinc and some lead, and in the right assemblage of base metals, but in much larger amounts that are typical when we see high-grade silver as well. So we're going to have some news out on this target here in the next couple of weeks. And, we've been looking at a lot of these other targets, kind of ranking that list in that first top 10. And we're just seeing so much, like in this one called Nayar, where we're getting underground in some old working in that target. It's up here in the kind of the north of the north, in wide zones. And that one has, again, massive sulfides, the right assemblage of minerals where we'd see high-grade silver.
Right. So
I think a lot of the excitement in Los Ricos North this year, besides probably a very, very significant, a value-changing resource for us in Los Ricos North, to add to that value we've already created, is a bunch of discovery. It's going to be very exciting discovery. So we will show people that I believe Los Ricos is going to become one of the very important projects, assets in the silver space. And I think that is going to become very apparent in 2021.
I love that. And I was going to say, your excitement for the project is obvious, especially with you holding a very large position in the company. If I'm correct, you have the second largest ownership, as well as insider ownership is quite high. Maybe talk a little bit about that, and then we'll be getting close to the amount of time that we have here for investors for now.
Yeah, sure. I've been involved with GoGold from the beginning, as a founding shareholder. And at first I was a strategic advisor. And I came in as CEO here just about 6 years ago. And when we started getting into the mining phase with the company at our operating mine, I took that role. And we were looking for something like this. And look, we've been so fortunate to find a Los Ricos. But yeah, I'd be a little bit under around 8% of the company. And myself and the rest of the board, we'd be about 20% of the company. We also have great support, not only from retail, but really we have a tremendous list of institutional shareholders who would be, people that we've dealt with over the years. You can see them on that page there. Some of the big names in the institutional side in our space. And, that comes from building 3 mines. We majorly refurbished the 4th. We've raised, for our projects in both debt and equity, we raised about $800 million of equity over the last 20 years and another $200 million in debt deals with Bank of Montreal, Scotiabank. So, it's a company that we have a large insider group that owns shares, about 20%. And we have a big institutional following and a great retail following as well. And, we're totally committed. And I think when you own being second largest shareholder, my interests are very aligned with all our shareholders. I'm here to create value in the company. And, it's not for us. Obviously, the stock is important. That's the shareholder wants to see the value of the stock goes up. I want to see the value of the stock goes up. But really, we're in the business of building a business here. And we will do the correct things to advance our assets and advance towards mines and what other opportunities might come along the way as we're doing that. It's all about, executing on the business, and that will be reflected in the stock price.
All right. Well, Brad, it seems like there's a lot of opportunity for investors to look forward to. How I see it is imminent drill results coming up, a really large program planned for this year with close to $20 million of exploration budget. Maybe Steve, you can hop on back onto the main screen here and we'll sign off for our investors. Any final remarks for our time here today?
No, thank you very much, Veronika, and we appreciate your interest. I think that 2021 is going to be the most exciting year so far for GoGold. We have so much to come out this year, so many key milestones that are going to be hit, and really we're going to grow the business, and that's going to be reflected in the stock price.
I love that. We look forward to it. Again, GoGold Resources, Steve Lowe, Head of Corporate Development, as well as Brad Langille, President and CEO, TSX listed company under the ticker symbol GGD, as well as on the OTC. Thanks so much, gents, for joining us here today.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.